The Pirates handily beat the Reds 7-0 behind the brilliance of their soon-to-be Cy Young winning hurler, Paul Skenes. And this time, he got a little bit of help from his friends. That's next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Welcome to Locked On Pirates. I'm Gary Morgan. Today, we're talking about a performance that was equal parts gritty and brilliant from the Pirates ace. How foolish it would be to give up on Henry Davis, and we'll discuss, can Brian Hayes return to PNC Park as a Reds player? Paul Skenes took the mound last night against the Reds and reminded everyone why he's the best pitcher in baseball. And by the end of this segment, I think you'll agree he should be walking away with his first Cy Young award. Final score last night was 7-0 Pirates. Skenes' line, 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, which to him means an awful lot, and 8 Ks. The Reds went 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. His ERA dropped to an MLB best 1.94. He is still undefeated versus Cincinnati in his career. He broke his own MLB record streak of 46 starts, allowing 6 or fewer hits by allowing 7 in this one. And he extended his scoreless streak at PNC Park to 27.2 innings. That is the longest by a Pirates pitcher at home since earned runs became official in 1912. Even when he gives up hits, Skenes doesn't give up runs. That's dominance. And doing it at home in front of your fans with that kind of historical weight, man, that's legendary stuff. Let's talk a little bit about the offensive highlights because you scored 7 runs last night, right? So, I mean, it wasn't just all the Paul Skenes show. Brian Reynolds, solo home run in the first to get the ball rolling. He was 2 for 4. It was an encouraging home run opposite field, deep off Singer. Another one of those ones where he maybe crept a little bit out towards the outer third of the zone. Things he's been letting go and or rolling over into ground balls an awful lot this season. So great to see. Jared Triolo, 2-run single in the first. That was a big hit at the time. Really was. Gave the Pirates a 3-0 cushion with the best pitcher in the game on the mound. Henry Davis, 2-run homer in the 7th. His first since June 7th. I should also say that Brian Reynolds' home run was his first since late June. Andrew McCutchen, 4 walks. That's a career high for him. It ties a career high for him. And O'Neal Cruz had an RBI single in the 6th, and it may not have been very impactful in this game. Not super important given all the other offense, but important because O'Neal Cruz has been just a ghost of himself for the past few weeks. So it was really nice to see him step up and do something important offensively. The offense didn't just support Skenes, they overwhelmed the Reds. That's kind of the balance. What this team needs if they want to make Skenes starts count. They don't need to score 7 runs, but they need to be a little bit more proficient offensively when he's pitching. I think that's an important thing. Cy Young case for Paul Skenes, I think, is pretty damn strong. We already talked about his 1.94 ERA. That is the best in MLB. His opponent batting average is 187. That's the lowest in the National League. His WAR, 5.4, second in the National League. Home dominance, well, we just talked about that 27.2 scoreless inning streak at PNC Park. And he's in the pole position, 26 of 32 first place votes in the latest Cy Young poll. He's not just leading in ERA and opponent batting average. He's doing it with consistency and historical dominance. That home streak, that's not just good, it's record-breaking. And it's happening in a season where the Pirates haven't backed him up. Last year, he finished third in Cy Young voting. This year, he's leaving no doubt. If voters are watching the game and not just scanning box scores, this is a slam dunk. He's so much fun to watch pitch. There's so many little intricacies of watching Paul Skenes pitch that I bet a national audience doesn't get really. You know, they see the highlights of him striking guys out and they see the highlights of some pitch that has like really, really filthy movement. And that's the stuff that gets put out by Pitching Ninja and ESPN and MLB Network and all that. That stuff's impressive. I love seeing all that stuff. But when you watch him and you see the complete mastery from start to finish of a start, I think you get more of a complete picture of what Paul Skenes really is. He is constantly in a mental warfare game with you. From the first pitch he throws to the last. If you get on base, he's just as competitive that you stay at first base as he was that you don't get there in the first place. If you get into scoring position against him and you should be able to just get a run home with a fly ball, he bears down and does everything in his power to make sure that you have no hope of making any kind of significant contact to get that run home. He makes it as hard as possible to score runs. And it's masterful. It's unbelievable to watch. First, to be able to just kind of change the type of pitcher you are just because you want to is kind of unreal to begin with. And what I mean by that is it's not just about turning a switch and you're a strikeout pitcher all of a sudden. It's that he recognizes a situation in the game and probably his own offense's shortcomings. And he realizes, like, listen, I need to strike two guys out here and keep the damage down to nothing. I can't afford to just keep my pitch count in check and get some easy outs and get through this and be okay with surrendering a run. That's not the kind of offense I have. And he goes out of his way to make sure that he's actually delivering those strikeouts. He's an unbelievable pitcher. I don't think that anybody can say they've ever seen anything like that. We know statistically he's done things that have never been done in this game. So it's not as though this is just a one fan's observation. He really and truly is doing things that have never been done. Paul Skenes is the kind of pitcher you should build a franchise around. He's rewriting the record books, dominating every advanced metric, and doing it with poise and power. If the season ended today, he should be holding the Cy Young Award, period. The Pirates need to step up and do better to support him. And that doesn't just go for this year. That goes into next year. I hate to give them benefit of the doubt on anything, okay? But they've had 2 years now of Paul Skenes. 2 good seasons of Paul Skenes. I mean, we talked about he finished third in Cy Young last year, so it's not like he wasn't great. If he just had pitched more, I think he would have been a lock for the Cy Young last year. I think he damn near won it last year, only pitching a little over half a season. So it should have been pretty intuitive he was going to come back and put some kind of a performance like that together. Well, this team hasn't supported him offensively either year. Somebody in that organization has to learn that lesson, right? Let's hope so. I think next year could be a lot more fun if he's pitching for a Cy Young and a playoff spot. That's not going to just come from him continuing to be great, though, because you can't get much greater than he is. And this is as high up as he can drag this team. He needs help. When we come back, I want to talk about Henry Davis. We talked about his home run in this one. Let's talk a little bit more about why it would be foolish to give up on him. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. It's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you if you want. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you'll be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you hit me with a subscribe and a like. Drop me a comment. I'd love to hear what you take on some of my topics today or any day this week, or things you want to hear me talk about next week. And also, make sure you take some time and go check out Locked On Steelers with Chris Carter. The Steelers are getting ready to get the preseason underway here. Schedule. Nobody's going to cover you better than Chris Carter. Go check that show out. I think you'll love it. You won't regret it. In fact, if you do, come back here and tell me that you did. I'd love to see your comments that you enjoyed the show. Don't give up on Henry Davis. The talent is still there. Despite his struggles, Henry Davis still has the tools and the upside to be a key piece for the Pirates. I know it's been a struggle. I really do. But I think there's reason to hold out some optimism that he's still going to find it a little bit. Last night, Henry Davis gave the Pirates fans a glimpse of what made him the number one overall pick in 2021. 2-run homer, a multi-hit game, and maybe, just maybe, a turning point. Let's talk about why it's way too early to give up on this kid, okay? Here was his quote last night about hitting his home run. He said, "I hoped." And then I saw Austin Hayes climbing up the wall, and I was like, oh, he's definitely catching it. But thankfully, it got out. It's his first home run since June 7th. His first multi-hit game since June 29th. He entered the game with just 4 hits in his last 54 at-bats. And he has been pressing, no doubt. But that swing and the reaction, they show a guy who's still fighting and still believing. 2025, he has hit 195 with a 250 on-base percentage and a 366 slug. We talked about his recent slump of going 4 for 54 before last night. And when asked about that, he said, obviously, you trust the process. I really do feel like I've hit the ball a lot better than it shows. Seeing a couple land felt pretty good. He's not making excuses. He's just acknowledging the grind. And that's what you want from a young player, accountability and resilience. He's got elite prospect pedigree. We should not forget that just because it's been a struggle here. He was the number one overall pick in 2021. He was the top college bat in his class. He does have 70 grade arm strength that he displays routinely from behind the dish. In 71 games with Indianapolis, he hit 320 with 15 home runs, 48 RBI, and 11 stolen bases. Ben Cherington had this to say about Henry Davis at one point here. The same reasons we bet on him coming out of the draft, the skills, the work ethic, the toughness, all those things are still there. Derek Shelton back in the day said, there's no panic. We know he's going to be a good player. We know he's going to be a good hitter. Look, development isn't linear. Not every top pick becomes a star overnight, but Davis has the tools, the makeup, and the support of the organization, and that matters. It really does. You can't give up on players this quickly. Okay. Henry Davis, he has a hitch in his swing, and I personally hate his stance and have hated his stance ever since they drafted him. I've always thought it was something they were going to have to work on. They did some work this year to close it up a little bit, and I do believe that it helped him for a little bit of a stretch. But I don't believe he's fully committed to it. He's still pulling off of everything. And when Henry Davis is pulling off of everything, it's really going to impact his power because people aren't going to throw him wheelhouse pitches very often inside. He's much better against lefties than he is righties. Although I think his main problem really this whole year has been hitting the fastball, which is crazy because that was his bread and butter. It was completely his bread and butter. So some of the swing changes they've tried to fix with him, I think in some ways have slowed his bat down, but not enough to like keep him from fouling off balls that breaking pitches. The fastball he's just not catching up to. And that talks all about the trigger mechanism that gets his swing going. He relies so much on that bat speed, and he's so afraid of yanking everything left and foul that he's trying real hard to wait a little bit longer to get that swing off. And when you wait a little bit longer to get that swing off, I think you're missing the in zone time that a lot of these pitchers are giving you with their pitches. He definitely has work to do. I think he needs a new person to talk to personally. Probably needs to be a guy that gets sent to drive line in the off season, needs to really focus on the offensive side of his game. Trust that the defense has come along to a certain point and you're going to be okay with it, and focus on offense. Because once the season gets rolling again, it's going to be really hard for him to do anything other than focus on the defensive side of the game like he does right now. It's what he's gotten the pitchers used to. It's what he's gotten the organization used to. It's to the point where they're depending on him for some of the game setup and the game planning that takes place for the starting pitchers, and for that matter, the bullpen. And that's whether he's starting or not. Even if he's going to be the backup that night, he's doing that kind of work. And I think he'll continue to do that next year. But what you can't have is at the same time trying to teach a guy how to hit. He's going to have to accomplish that in the offseason. He's going to have to go and figure out what is missing in his swing. Find a way to get that bat to stay in playing a little bit longer without sacrificing the bat speed that gives you the uncanny power that you have. Otherwise, what will continue to happen is he's going to pop home runs every once in a while, and he's going to go into these deep, dark stretches. If you can't catch up with a fastball in the major leagues, it doesn't matter what you can do. And that's the first thing to conquer. Get Henry Davis back to the point where he's hunting fastballs, and not only hunting them, but connecting with them. He did it early on in his career. He even did it early on when he got called up and struggled like hell in right field. He's always done it in the minors. He's done it up here for little stretches. That it's not one of those things that you can get by without. If they don't get Henry back to hitting fastballs, Henry's going to struggle. That's got to be mission number one. Go to drive line, go wherever. I don't care who trains you, but focus the whole off season on getting back to hitting the fastball and being on time for the fastball. If you can get back to that, I don't know about you guys, but I'll take swinging and missing at breaking pitches every once in a while under the zone if he's going to get back to connecting with fastballs. He can hit balls out to any part of that ballpark if he's hitting the fastball. And I just think that's got to be the focus. They spent a lot of time trying to get him to recognize the breaking pitches and alter his, setup in the box to make sure that he could take advantage of the breaking pitches. Well, it doesn't work because he's trying so hard to keep his bat at a certain speed to still get that kind of power to generate it off of the breaking pitches, but it's not fast enough to catch up to the fastball. That's really the crux of it. There's almost two sides that he's trying to serve at the plate, and because of that, he's barely servicing either. I'm suggesting you take what he does really well, or used to do really well, which is hitting the fastball. You refocus and double down on that effort, and you hope that the breaking pitch recognition that he's gained augments that and turns him into a more complete hitter. Either way, he deserves more work, and let's be real. Unless this Yankees prospect they just got outdoes him, he's going to be the starting catcher next year. And even if he does outdo him, he might be the starting catcher just because defensively, I think he's that far above this guy. And that's not even taking into account Endy or whether they keep Bard, or what about Abraham Gutierrez, who's showed that he could hit a little bit in the minors too. They've got some options here, but I think personally there's room to give a little bit more runway to your 1-1. In fact, I think you owe it to your system. This isn't a guy that you can just flush. This isn't a guy that you can just move off of. A lot of power potential there. This team needs power like you can't believe. There's a perfect place to get it. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Ke'Bryan Hayes returning to PNC Park. And folks, I got to just tell you, I don't feel nothing. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before week 1 kicks off. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. The flex pay option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you still double your money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. And not to be repetitive, but it struck me last night. It took last night for me to really and truly understand how I would feel. I was set up mentally to feel some emotion when I saw Ke'Bryan Hayes in a Reds uniform at PNC Park. And I just got to be honest, I'm not trying to be jaded here. I just felt nothing. Hayes was a great defender, but I feel like the Pirates knew exactly what he was, and so did we. And I feel like the Reds will too. Ke'Bryan Hayes was back in Pittsburgh last night, but this time he's wearing red, and the former cornerstone of the Pirates infield is now a Cincinnati Red. And while there's a lot of emotion around his return, I'm sorry, it didn't affect me. Hayes was traded at the deadline after 5+ seasons in Pittsburgh. He signed an 8-year, $70 million extension in 2022. It's the largest in Pirates history at the time. And here's what he had to say about that contract. At the end of the day, the reason I signed the contract here in Pittsburgh was I wanted to be here. But baseball is a business. It's been great over here in Cincinnati, and they've welcomed me with big arms. He went on further to talk about his time in Pittsburgh. It was great. There were ups and downs, but all in all, it was good. He handled it with class, no bitterness, no drama. I respect that. But let's be real, this isn't Andrew McCutchen coming back. This is a glove-first third baseman who never figured it out at the plate. His career slash line with the Pirates was 248, 311, 374. His career high in home runs was 15 back in 2023. Remember all the hope that filled us with? The way he finished that season? OPS plus over his Pirates tenure is 88. League average is 100. In 2025, his numbers before the trade were 239, 298, and 361. Ke'Bryan Hayes is who we thought he was. An elite glove, below average bat, and while I'll miss the defense, the smoothness, the instincts, the highlight plays, I will not lose sleep over this bat coming back to hurt the Pirates. And I think that was really the thing that I felt most. I usually have a little bit of fear. I got to be honest. I had a little more fear that Connor Joe would hurt us last time he came back as a Red, just because I've seen him hit some home runs, and I've seen him kind of go nuts in a game and go 4 for 5. Listen, we've seen Hayes do the same thing. I don't know, man. I came out of it almost feeling like Hayes is the Reds' problem now, or their project. He's 28. He had every opportunity to unlock his offense here in Pittsburgh. Pirates gave him runway. They gave him coaching and patience. They let him talk to any outside source he wanted to get help, including the inside guys. They would have helped. The Reds may think they can fix him. In fact, they talked to that. They felt like there was some kind of little swing change they could make. But I got to be honest, I think they're likely to come to the same exact conclusion we have. The glove is awesome, and you'll marvel at it, and you'll love it. But at the end of the day, this dude can't hit. Sometimes a change of scenery works, but more often it just confirms what the first team already knew. Hayes is a defensive wizard, but in today's game, you need more than that to be a core piece. And I think ultimately, when we talked yesterday about like why they needed to make room there to like just add some power potential, well, I think that's really all this was. I loved Ke'Bryan as a player, and that contract, that $70 million contract, I realized it was never fulfilled here in Pittsburgh, and I realized that he didn't have a great tenure here. But that contract in and of itself meant an awful lot to me as a Pirates fan. It felt like the team finally showing us that they were going to hold on to some guys. And this one didn't work out, and you hope that it's not one of those things that becomes instructive for them, where they feel like they put it out there and it didn't work out. You kind of hope Brian Reynolds isn't doing the same thing right now as we speak. A team that was already afraid to do something like this has now done it a couple times, and the last thing you want is for them to get burned by it. You want them to be rewarded for taking that stab and locking somebody down and holding a piece here beyond the beginning of free agency. That's what maybe I think a lot of us kind of have bitterness towards Ke'Bryan because of that. It was a great contract at the time. We all thought it was a good idea. And it meant more than the contract itself. It signified the team doing something that they hadn't done in the past. And it burned every single one of us, right? It didn't work out. So I hope that they see through that and realize, hey, that's part of what happens. You're going to miss every once in a while. Because I think that sort of contract is the exact sort of thing they should be trying to, like, they should be trying to come up with a contract like that for a guy like Nick Gonzalez. If you think about it, we're only a year away from Nick Gonzalez starting to cost money in arbitration, and you start talking about how much time he really has left here if you don't extend him. He's just starting now to really kind of show himself. I mean, he was injured for the whole beginning of the season. Maybe we would feel even more confident by now, but I don't want them to be afraid to extend a guy like Nick Gonzalez because of what just happened with Ke'Bryan Hayes. So to me, that could be more a story of his legacy. He's the hot handle of the pot that the Pirates touched first and burned their hands on. I wish Ke'Bryan well. I really do. He was a pro here, but I'm just not worried about him beating the Pirates. I'm not worried about him becoming a star in Cincinnati. I'm comfortable with what we saw and what we didn't. And I think the Reds will too soon enough. I hate to sound like I don't have any kind of feelings for the guy. I really did enjoy watching him play. I just more and more over the past couple seasons started to come to the conclusion that this team was never going to get to a certain point with their offense if they continue to have certain positions locked down by guys that have a cap on what they can provide offensively. And I'm sorry, Ke'Bryan did. He really did. He could go down as the greatest third baseman that ever lived defensively. He really could. I don't know. He's got probably a decent amount of career left to start laying track like that. I think he'd still have arguments about Brooks Robinson and even Nolan Arenado. That the number of Gold Gloves that guy won consecutively will be top to match for anybody. But statistically and just visually, he's a damn good fielder. That's not going to be enough for anybody to confuse him with a damn good player. So ultimately, this is one of those rare times where you've traded within the division, and I don't care because I ultimately don't think that you've helped that team. I think they'll come to the same exact conclusion the Pirates did, and they'll probably waste a year or two trying to discover it, which is fine by me. I hate the Reds. So that's all I got for you today. Have a great weekend, everybody. Come back on Monday. Hopefully we're talking about like the Pirates completely dashing the Reds' playoff dreams. Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? I'd love my headline on Monday to be like, something like the stop to Red October. Let's be fun, man. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Let's go Bucks.